President Bill Clinton, James Woolsey. He also had roles in the Carter, Reagan, and George H.W. Bush administrations and served for a time as an advisor to President-elect Donald Trump during the transition. Also with us, Evelyn Farkas, who served in the Obama administration as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia, and former FBI double agent Naveed Jamali, who is an MSNBC contributor and author of How to Catch a Russian Spy. Admiral, let me start with you. If what the Washington Post reports is true, did the president potentially compromise our national security?
I'm sorry, who is this directed to?
To you, Admiral.
Yeah, thanks for the promotion. I never got above Army captain, but in any case, I don't know how to categorize this set of leaks. It's really a stunning development, and it's cascading, and it could inure really very badly to the disadvantage of the country if people keep demanding more and more material come out publicly. This is not a good thing.
Well, it involves something called code word information. So help us put all of this into context and tell us what that is and as a result, how serious this could potentially be.
Well, most information that is particularly sensitive has a code word attached to it as in a special compartment and is known by that code word. And it's also essentially an informal way of saying material that has to be handled more than carefully than ordinary top secret. It has its own special category of holding and transmitting and so forth.
And this intelligence is allegedly about an ISIS plot, and it involves laptops, it involves planes. The Russians, of course, are supposed to be in the fight against ISIS with us. What are your concerns here?
Well, the Russians are in the fight a little bit against ISIS and a tiny bit with us because they're mainly trying to preserve the position of Syria, I think, and the Syrian leadership and Assad. So we and they have some interests that coincide in this business in the Mideast today, and a number of interests that do not.
Already there were questions, Evelyn, of why the president had Lavrov and the ambassador Kislyak in there. And obviously this is an ambassador who was linked to the departure of Flynn, also Sessions, from the recusal of all things Russia. How does something like this happen? You've been in the room where it happens. How does this happen?
I mean, I think it happens, first of all, because the president made a bad decision to have this meeting. This is a country, let's not forget the fact that Russia hasn't stopped meddling in our democracy. We had the elections. They continue to be involved in funding all kinds of networks and in pushing propaganda through the internet to us. Also, the Germans are on TV almost every day complaining about interference in their upcoming elections. We know they interfered in the French elections. So these are not our friends. And in Syria, they're on the side. The Russians are on the side with Syria, Iran, and the Hezbollah. This information was allegedly gleaned from Syria, the Syrian theater of operations from the Defense Department perspective, okay? So this is an area where we're not on the same side as Russia. If we give this information, whatever it was the president said was enough for the Russians to try to track down how we got the information. That could lead to somebody dying potentially. I mean, it could be that bad. And certainly it would mean that the intelligence is cut off from that source, but many other sources.
So let me ask you then, if obviously if this story is completely true and then the people who were in that room rushed out to inform other people, this is what has just happened, what would you have done in that situation if you're standing there and the President of the United States is giving away information that you know to be classified? Is there really anything, though, in that situation you can do about it?
I think if you have some courage, yes, because everyone in that room took an oath to the Constitution, not to the President. The President also took an oath to the Constitution. So everyone in that room would have been within their rights, and actually it would have been the right thing to do, to say, oh, Mr. President, let's not forget also this, and distract him, find some way to get off the topic. Because he gave enough information that he must have been speaking for enough minutes. Now, we don't know. Maybe somebody did actually try to do that, but you're giving foreign intelligence to a foreign adversary. And when I was in government, I know we relied on foreign governments to warn us of things, certainly about terrorism, but not just terrorism. Anything that another country might be doing vis-a-vis the United States where it would harm our objectives, our interests, from from tactical things like moving troops to something strategic like making a political decision. We rely on our foreign friends and allies and partners to give us intelligence. If they turn off that intelligence, if they don't trust us anymore, then we're going partially blind.
Naveed, we're in a situation with the White House where there seems to be a critical situation, one after another after another. But when you talk to the folks on Capitol Hill, and I'm saying Democrats as well as Republicans, the one, for lack of a better phrase, bright spot that they would point to would be the national security team. There was a lot of confidence on the Hill, a lot of confidence in many circles here in Washington, D.C., that they would be able to steer this very important ship in a time of great uncertainty in the world. What do you make of what happened and the implications here?
Well, all I've heard so far are denials and more specifically this sort of legalese answer that specific classified information or the sort of the syntax of what was said matters. And frankly, Chris, it doesn't. You know, whether classified information or sources and methods, the who, what, and how was disclosed to the Russians is inconsequential. If you're ISIS, which is what the Washington Post has reported, this target operation, collection operation was aimed at. If you're ISIS and you've heard now that there was a plot, that we had sources collecting on their plot to put bombs on laptops, you know the people that were involved in that operation. And simply put, if we had an asset in place or a foreign intelligence agency had an asset in place collecting that, which is, by the way, incredibly hard to get someone to infiltrate ISIS, they have simply rolled up that entire cell and most likely killed them. So when you think about the ramification, you know, again, code word, as Jim explained, when you think about the ramification it has to a collection agent, an operations officer, whether it be in our service or a foreign service, entrusting the United States with that information, they are now questioning it. And that is unbelievably damaging, especially since we rely on these sources. I mean, these are the crown jewels of any intelligence service. If there's an attack in the future, this is something that they're going to wonder about sharing information with us.
And we're hearing that from members of, on the Republican side on Capitol Hill. The reaction has been bipartisan concern. I just want to play a little bit of what some Republicans have had to say about this.
I think we could do with a little less drama from the White House on a lot of things so that we can focus on our agenda.
Obviously, they're, you know, downward spiral right now and have got to figure out a way to come to grips with all that's happening.
When I look at McMaster's quote, it's a pretty technical quote. I think it's actually something quite different from a full rebuttal of the story.
Mr. Woolsey, when you hear somebody like Bob Corker talking about a downward spiral at this White House, number one, do you agree with it? Number two, what can be done to fix it?
It's hard to tell how much of this is sort of press generated and generated by the story and how much of it is a substantive bad judgment by the president. We can't really sort that out without having access to the information, and I hope none of us has access to the information, because then the public would have it, and that means quite possibly, as was pointed out a minute ago, someone might die from disclosing sources and methods. So it's a dilemma, and it's a serious dilemma, and has come to be so in part because of the very substantial amount of press attention that it's getting.
And it comes after an election on which, in many ways, one of the key tenets of what Donald Trump ran on was keeping America safe, making America great again, and criticizing Hillary Clinton through the email scandal. Let me play, just to remind people, what he had to say on the campaign trail.
The Secretary of State was extremely careless and negligent in handling our classified secrets. She lied about passing on classified information, right? We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified. In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information.
Naveed, when he says you can't have someone who doesn't understand the meaning of classified, I mean, you do wonder what they might be thinking at the Kremlin today.
You know, look, we know that, again, the semantics and the specifics aside, we know that President Trump gave the Russians intelligence. And what we don't know is what we left with. Did we leave with an agreement on ISIS with the Russians? Did we leave with an agreement on Assad? Did we even leave with an agreement from the Russians not to meddle in our elections going forward? The answer is no. We gave them information and got nothing in return. To spin this is just the absolute worst thing that the White House can do. They messed up and they need to own this.